Before I just begin this discussion on why I'm single, I'd like to discuss who brought about the situation that I am in and to point out that I do not believe that it is Russia and Britain against the United States. It's Russia, Britain, and an inside circle in the United States against Kennedy liberalism. And I was cut out to be a Pittsburgh's lampoon of Kennedy liberalism. Jane Thompson was a half sister of mine. Jeff Thompson was a engineer who built clubhouses around the neighborhood, and he's the one who would come up with the industrial. He took me to Deliverance, the film. He's the one who would come up with the idea of brutally torturing a child and then subjecting him to successive degradations of the X motive, which Justin Vicari characterized as an assembly line of death. Here's how it operated. They brutally attacked me and forcibly invaded a Pittsburgh public school and kidnapped me and beat my brains in. I'm an object of sympathy to nobody for whatever reason they had selected me. But in the eyes of diplomacy, if somebody did come to my fence, they would say, "What in the world are you doing to this little child?" And Pittsburgh would spit nails and say he deserved it because he wouldn't fight back. Okay, it was a Jewish Holocaust survivor community. Well, what they did then was they elicited sex from the traumatized, fearful hostage child. And so then they subtracted a morality point, you see. So he's no longer a sympathetic character who's been attacked because he has had theft. So then they attack again. And then thought we need to poach him with more theft. So they subtract two morality points. And 3, 4. And the queer bait catches on and says, how can they get away with this? They invaded a Pittsburgh public school with a huge, brutal pornographic industry and kidnapped me. And church says, because you still love somebody. You have to forgive and turn over the money to the church. Well, Jane Thompson loved rollerball. As I've said many times, there are girls who I like, and there are girls who I love, but they are not worthy people when it comes to me. None of them have spoken out in my favor against this Dracula business. And what's more is I'm not looking for a martyr. These murderers have started killing people like Seriously Kennedy, knowing that I didn't know she existed, but would love her if I knew. See, they're the holy order who understand what human potential is only if you refrain from theft. And they're boiling the oceans and stuff in the eternal flame of Kennedy to make sure that everybody gets the message and stop having sex. So what happens in rollerball is that he's alone in the end. And that's just what Jane Thompson loved about that. The loner in Deliverance will pull salt on him like on a slug and watch him ride. We'll watch him ride. Ha ha ha. And this is the Nazism is at work in this. The United States of America. Britain, Russia, and the United States of America came up with this Superman story of a super wolf. And they started detonating things to my poetry and stuff. And go trace it back to Ouspensky. They brag about it in their stuff. And you can't call the police because the police say we're busy watching queer-ball pornography. And you can't call the FBI because the FBI says those are important people. You can't talk about important people. And you can't talk to peers about it because the peers say, look, man, we want the money. We want the money. We've got children. We want the pussy. And you can't talk to the schools about it because the schools say, Well, we've got UW dialectical on it, and we wonder about them points they've been subtracting. We're going to work with the people subtracting the points. Neva pornographic is A-OK, and the police watching your pornography, making sure of it. And this is what they do. This is how they operate, and this is how they think. And they can't comprehend that people might be restless, looking for a meaning, looking for somebody to care about. They're not going to allow me to have someone to care about because they have Yoko Ono's and the queers, the perverts in Seattle saying, there's only one move left. We're poisoning the mouth. We've released COVID-19. We've killed 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Kennedys, and they still haven't said anything about it. There's only one more move left. And queer bars alone, ha ha ha, alone, ha ha ha, which is what Jane Thompson loved about Rollerball, because in the end, James Caan gets betrayed. They offer him a girl in return. It's like, the way that Weezo gets snookered in the Last Temptation of Christ. They let him off the cross. Then he says, you can go with the girl if you want to. And James Caan says, no, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. I won't take the bait. I won't take the bait. And then they have Weezo climb back up onto the cross. And this is the criminal insanity of P.S. Gabriel. They scripted this whole thing. It's John Lennon's revenge for Yoko Ono. He gave her a blank check to molest the United States, to torture the United States, to send brutal organized gangs and pornographers into Pittsburgh public schools, and they had the blessings. Now, Pittsburgh Catholic, the Jews were ripping off the museums, and so what? They used a nerve agent on me, and so what? They played the blew up a laboratory in celebration of getting away with AIDS on Mount Desert Island. So what? They blew up the oil fields in the Middle East. So what? And they get these 3 criminal girls to come out and say, he wants to 2-time us. He wants to 2-time us. We want to boil the oceans. We want to have Great Danes. We want to escape for Putin. It's a ridiculous, harrowing, and offensive crime against an individual who went to a Pittsburgh public school. And these satanic idiots in Access Hollywood can't connect with anything. You can't talk to a politician about it. Politicians say, "Well, we endured the most heavy conversation from a weirdo." Whatever, man.